In 1979, there was a civil disturbance in Liberia, which many have seen as the beginning of violence in our modern politics. How did this conflict manifest itself during the April 1979 riots? What was your role at the time? And eventually there was a military coup during the period 80 to 85. What were your experiences that you think the Liberian people in this commission could benefit from?
First of all, I was not in the country when this incident occurred, but I was very much in tune with what was happening in Liberia. As a young student in the United States going to school, we had begun the activists, we were the activist generation, agitating for change, agitating for decentralization of government. But I was not in the country. But nevertheless, what happened in '79, this particular incident you just mentioned, historians have described it as the rice riot. I think they are describing it wrong. I think we should call it a rice massacre. Is there a difference? To call it rice riot, you are blaming the people that got shot on ground that they were rioting. If you call it a rice massacre, in my view, you put the blame squarely on the government, because it was the government that shot and people died. People did not die because they were quote-unquote rioting. People died because the government shot. And I think history needs to put this right. Now, that event, of course, was a turning point, because for the first time, citizens of Liberia decided to speak out on an issue publicly and to instruct government that we don't want the price of rice to be increased. How did that turn into bloodbath? This is something that we need to understand. If people decide that we want to instruct our government, this particular policy should not be, how come it turned into a bloodbath? It turned into a bloodbath because it goes back again. The government could not tolerate the people instructing it. Well, the government has to be instructed. It's in our constitution. The people have a right to assemble at any time, whether it's midnight, whether it's in the morning, whether it's in the evening, without threat to anyone, to assemble at any time and consult upon the common good. That's what we have in our constitution. So when the people consult on the common good, the constitution says they should instruct their representatives. It didn't say they should appeal to their representative. When the people have consulted and they feel strong about an issue, they should give instructions, not appeals. Instruct the government. Well, the government of Liberia cannot be instructed. The government instructs the people. We need to reverse this. Democracy is upside down in Liberia. We can't even have a chieftaincy election. It is not possible to conduct local elections in Liberia. It's not possible unless we restructure the ground. But the ground that the government of Liberia has been using all through the generations, 161 years, that ground, that structure, is not possible to conduct an election. So how is it that, that the government of Liberia will just go on running the country without election at the bottom? We got elected in 2005. We should have done local election before the national election in 2005, but it was not possible. So I participated in a workshop conducted by the NEC, and we made a case that let us have the local elections first. You don't start building a house from the top. And all the partners, the international people, the election commission, the political parties, we all agreed that that was the way to go. When the facilitators went on the ground, They started asking critical questions. How many chiefdoms you have? Nobody knew. How many cities you have? Nobody knew. Towns, clans. So what do you call clans? Nobody really knows what's a clan. As we speak now in Liberia, nobody knows what's a chiefdom. How come? Nobody knows what's a clan or what's a town. We need to define these things. The other day we had a problem, and we went to the Supreme Court for city mayor. The president wants to appoint city mayor. No, you cannot appoint city mayor, Madam President. These are elected positions. We ended up in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court wanted to know what's a city. We didn't have a definition. They reverted to the Blackwell Dictionary, which is the dictionary of lawyers. And that dictionary said that a city is a political subdivision. What does the Constitution say? The president shall appoint superintendents and other leaders of political subdivision. Is a city a political subdivision? Yes. Well, then the president will appoint. That was the ruling. But the president knows nowhere in the world are city mayors appointed. So the president is a little hesitant now. Even though the Constitution has given the president the right to go appoint city mayors, she can't. They will look ugly. City mayors appointed, city councils appointed. And what happened to the citizens? Democracy is upside down in this country. So I hope I'm answering your concerns here. Let us democratize the bottom as quickly as possible. And we can begin now. We started doing some things already. We will make mistakes along the way, but I'm sure in the next 4 or 5 years, it will get straight. If we're not careful, we may not even conduct the election in 2011. And then back to square one. So the emphasis of my thoughts here, the Liberian conflict, is all the government. The government here is too centralized. As long as this government remains as centralized as it is, we're not going to have peace. The reason why there are no schools, for example, in Grand Crew County, is because the government is too centralized. I went home, I'm campaigning, and I asked a group of chiefs, women, and they were complaining that they didn't have a school in this particular town. And I said, but do you all want a college in Grand Crew? So yeah. Have you decided you want a college? He said, no. And you're not going to have it. See? The people of this country need to take charge. Everything government, everything government. Of course, everything should be, the government should provide the leadership, yes. But who's going to put the school in Pignesses? Are you telling me, I'm from Pignesses, Grand Crew, are you telling me that we are supposed to wait for somebody in Monrovia, for the Minister of Education, before we can have a school in Grand Crew? No, it should not be. So the people in rural Liberia are waiting for the government, as the government of 1847 was waiting for a supply from ACS. And the government of Liberia today is still waiting for a supply from America. When do we take charge of this country? That's what the conflict is about. When do we take charge? We're slaughtering one another. I was here in Monrovia during the war, and I was standing in the room, and I was looking through the window, spying through the window, I saw some fighters. And they had this man, they were double tying him, and they were headed for the beach behind where the old Ministry of Internal Affairs is now. I was looking through the window, and they were carrying this man. Who's carrying him? Liberians. Where are they carrying him? They're going to kill him. Good grief. What is this fight about?